Today, this adventure, I'm going to be showing everybody how I maintain a steam boiler. First thing first, here's your boiler. What you want to do is find where's everything. So there's a return pipe on the floor. We have a drain valve here. And also, before you do anything, if you're going to service a steam boiler, make sure you have 2 gaskets and 2 new rings. Look here. If the nuts look good, they get to stay. If they're all corroded, you're gonna replace them. As you can see, you got a return on the ground and you got a drain back there. Okay. So what we got to do is drain it. One of the things I noticed is that the valve is straight down. I really wish it didn't come straight down, that it came off on a slight angle, maybe 45 or something. Because I want to turn this so it faces this way. Problem is I got to keep tightening it, so I'm going to have to swing it almost around. You never want to loosen, you can always tighten. So even like this is good. As long as I can fit my butt underneath. It might make a mess. Go a little more. I can always stop it. Okay, I get my bucket more in and out, because for me that's very important. So now I can put my bucket here, fill most of the way up and get it out. You can use their little bucket, but that takes forever. So before we drain, safeties are important. I turned it off to cool it. So let's bring it on. It's sparking. Burner's fired up. So we know that works. Now we want to test our low water cutoff. This is crucial for a steam boiler. So let's test it. Look. That's some really dark chocolate. Well, not even chocolate, black. Has a sense to put it up a little. Put it on. I love my flashlight that just sticks. What we're doing is we're dropping the water. Here, we want to go below here and make sure this senses the low water. I'm not flushing super fast, because you go too fast, sometimes it doesn't pick up or something. See, now, low water and off. All right, now I can go faster. And this is an auto feed. Probably the same as using a smaller bucket. I'm gonna dump it. Before I dump it, I mean, look at that water. I don't think anybody does anything after we do our maintenance every year, which means that my return can be pretty plugged up. Another reason why I prefer my own bucket. They should have put the valve the other way, but is because a lot of times you use somebody else's bucket and it leaks. And then you just make a mess. Oh, we got a nice thing popped and came out. Dump it. And here goes the next bucket. This might be about it. I like to get all the water out during the boiler maintenance. Which is better to get it all out. Once it's all out and I'm done with the water side, then I do the gas side. But I always do the water side first. That takes about I'm gonna say the maintenance here takes at least an hour and a half to 2 hours on a steam boiler. It's like a half hour, 45. It's about 45 minutes of cleaning. Then you're filling the boiler, and then you got to build pressure. And because this has a giant return, I might have to fill the boiler a couple times, get more water in it as I slowly start to fill the return up. Because I'm going to drain that whole Hartford loop, or the big return loop, how it rises up like a trap and comes back in. So bump it. This is flushing out this loop at least a little bit, pushing some of that gunk out. Okay, now I gotta kill power because the boiler is actually, the water feed came on. Power's off. I'm surprised it's still feeding. So, because it's still feeding, off. Hopefully it just didn't get stuck. But I'm gonna dump that and we'll find out. Once I get this out, then, I mean, I doubt I'll ever get this boiler clear. But once the boiler's empty, we'll be back. All right, so now the water's coming out clear. So now I wanna drain down a lot of this return. So what I wanna do is find, this spot may have been done over and over again. Close this. I hope I don't regret what I'm about to do. But see, right here's been flushed. Out here. Heavy door. Old heavy door. Back in over here. You got this beautiful friggin' stuff over here, but you also have where all the returns come down. Good thing I have a 90 fitting on this. Now I wish there was a drain over here, but there's not. So down in the basement I found these two containers which definitely have been used for draining on occasion. So what I'm going to do, just open this and we're in trouble because nothing is coming through, which is a terrible thing. It means that this drain is plugged or the pipe could be plugged up. So now I gotta get something while the valve's open and kind of go in. If I take the valve off, it's gonna make a huge mess. All right, so a lot of times, as I always, boom, you can tap it and break the restriction. Now this is the return water where all the condensation comes back. Just like to make sure that it's not plugged up. But the valve itself is plugged. Another thing you could do is you could always run a hose to it and flush in the other way, but got nice clear water coming out of the return. This has all been redone from the steel cast iron piping going around everywhere. So I drained a lot of this side. I'm gonna go to the other side. Let's just see. That brings, nope, didn't darken the water or anything like that. So okay, I'm pretty much happy. The problem's gonna be now it's gonna take forever for this system to fill this back up. Oh no, because as I alright, so as I fill the boiler, it's gonna fill this whole section back up. Now I got another valve here. Yeah. That's This one works, doesn't look that old, so it should. Uh-oh. See how I add a little water to it? Okay, it works. I had no choice. I might have drained most of it on the other side. You can see some of a little crud out. Water's not perfectly clear, but it's not too bad. It's an old steamer, so. Always make sure your returns are clear, because a plugged return is going to screw you up. Won't let the water come back to your boiler, and you'll have a boiler overfilling, because it'll just keep filling the return and water comes out of the air vents backwards. Okay. Now let's bring this over here. Just fill this up. If it can come out. Okay. This is just getting the last of whatever's in the return out. Can't go here, drain easier because it's lower. But I'm okay with this. Put the hose there, close this, the packing nut's leaking, but with it shut, it should stop. Now, we have the other side of the boiler. Now we gotta make sure our controls are clear, this pipe and also the sight glass, so they can see how much water's in it, even though I doubt they actually do anything to it. We got to make sure it's clear. We got to make sure the piping around the sight glass is clear, and these gaskets will be replaced. I never reuse them. Some people try to reuse them. I've had so many headaches and leaks whenever I try to reuse them, because this thing gets hot. And these little rubber gaskets, they kind of just form with the boiler. I can barely move it. So let me get a wrench. I'm also going to pull my stems off so I can flush through. Clean the sight glasses. I don't want to move this valve handle too much because there's crust around the stem, which means that may have leaked and somebody might have packed something in there to prevent more. There's probably a lot of mud inside here. Careful not to break the glass. If you do, it's fun to make a new one. You always gotta cut on the sides. Okay, so once you got these loose, these are stuck. They're always stuck, which is why I'm replacing them. Just get it to turn. Don't break your glass. If you do, I recommend always keeping spare something else. Boom. Get separated. Now that I separated it, they should move easier and the glass comes out. So that's the first thing I'm working on here. Because this takes a little bit of time, what I'm going to do before I worry about up here, because I got to clean up here too. And I forgot. Okay, let me go. The toolbox right behind me. I'm just being lazy. You know, I could be lazy at times. Take that off. Got the old Phillips screws. Power's off. Disconnect the electric. If you're not getting this off. You always want to set it as low as you can. You don't need any steam pressure for this. Get out of my way. And usually these things never go in too tight. This comes off once you get the electric off. Camera might have been looking at my knees. Filming my knees. I know my knees are really sexy. I know I film my knees a lot. But this is the control. You have a diaphragm inside. Boop. Alright, so that's probably all the water that's going to spill, but before the water police freak out, you're spilling water. You don't care. You're horrible because you spilled water. Now this. Can't see in. I'm curious. Let's see what that looks like. This, not bad. Protectors. Oh. Blah. Put it in the bucket. This up and around. Now let's feed water into the boiler. Until it flushes. Once it flushes out, we're good. This is how you're going to clear the port. That's a bad install. That should be 90'd up and protected by the pigtail. Remember, I'm filling the whole return, so that's why we're not getting anything up here yet. There we go. Alright. Now you're going to let that flush. You just rinsed a lot of that mud and gunk out of the pipe to that. I like to do it usually till it comes clear. We'll let this slow down first because know what you're doing. Don't dig into the boiler. Just kind of swirl around on the bottom of the pipe a little. That looks good. You clean that up a lot. So, while that's draining, on there, I could actually see in, but I'm sure this whole piece is full of mud. So let's take this and this and the sight glass to the sink. Alright, so we're going to start with the pigtail, and it does feel a little heavy. Bucket didn't fall. No. Just making sure. I like to do a little heavy, but looks pretty good. Little clumps came out, but nothing drastic. Clear. All clear. Clear top. Now the sight glass. We're ditching these. Brass spring and the washer because they get deformed. Just keeping the nuts so they don't need to be on for cleaning. Pressure control. Sight glass. Wash with some water. Okay, so this muddy gunky stuff. Boom. Out. That's good. I was expecting I'm going to have to go in like here. Stuff. So come in with this and you scrape it off the side. Comes right off. And if you need to take a little simple clean, spray it in there. Give it a second or two. Come back in now with this. Just brush on the sides a little, it all comes right off. You know what you can see in the glass? Now you can see better. You never know, there could have been a service call if they couldn't see. It happens often. Come out just for a service call where the sight glass is plugged, just to clean it for the customer. Okay, so let's go reinstall the stuff. Now this is coming down to a trickle. You can see how clear that water is. So you got the whole tubing cleaned out and everything. Now we gotta start putting it back together. Now that we're putting it back together, we have our glass. It is important how it goes back together. So first thing first, you have the nut, then you have your ferro, and then you have your rubber gasket. Slide them up a little, they can always go in place later. The other side, you're gonna do the same thing, nut, ferro, and washer. I believe it's called a ferro, it doesn't really matter. It just has to be there. It actually compresses the washer into place. The nut kind of just grabs that and pushes down, just like a compression ring kind of. So now we got to reinstall this. That's why I bring the washers in a little, top in, bottom in, and then push up. And go straight. No resistance, no cross threading, no breaking your glass. That's not tight yet, but you also don't want to over tighten these. You'll break the glass. So I just hand tighten them. They should not leak now, that's good. Now this, I'm just going to rinse it real fast, some of that muddy gunk off. Try to stop it from just going right back into the glass and making it gunky when the boiler starts running. Okay. Doesn't leak on this side. Now the pigtail. So for the pigtail, I'm gonna throw a little dope on it, pop it back in. It'll be good to go. Teflon it or dope it, whatever you want. I usually Teflon it, but right now I don't have Teflon in here. I have dope, so they both work. Do it by hand. We all learn is by all our mistakes, not by all the successes. I'm gonna leave this alone because that's probably never gonna go to zero ever again. Open that. Okay, so pretty quickly the water should start to rise in the glass. We want about here. Somewhere in that range where I left the white mark. I know it says here normal. That's fine. You don't want to go to the top. Somewhere around here. that's good. So the boiler's full. Now I gotta do the gas section. Start down here. Grab the light. Left it loose. I usually find these loose. Out of the way. Full burn. Let's just keep it full. Oh, not bad. So whoever's been coming around for the maintenance, keeping this guy nice and clean. So we got spark. Ignition here. With that ignition, we have a flame sense. Yeah, well, we always have a flame sense, but so this is why keeping 7/16 and 3/8 wrenches on you all the time is very important. This is 7/16. I'm gonna take this off. So. And be careful not to put them on an angle or strip, or else the gas valve probably is going to be toast. Now we got to get these 2 Phillips in here off. So, or the whole burner. The whole burner is easier once I pull the ground out of control. Bring it on there. Alright, so the flame sense on this is this hood. It might seem strange, but that and the rod is your igniter, and this hood sends the flame sense through ground. So it's critical that these boards are always grounded because they sense the flame through ground. So this has to be cleaned. Very good. Well, not very good, but it's got to be clean. I find sandpaper is good for this. You could use the Scotch-Brites on this, but sandpaper I find works a little better. This isn't a flame rod. It's just a flame hood. So it's just looking to bring that signal back to ground. And that it does lock out if it gets too much of that powdery stuff on here. So that should be good. It wasn't even that bad. Let's take this off. Pop the boot out of the way. I don't think this has been taken off too much. Boom. You can see it kind of glued on. So just like that. It's very tight. I refuse to use any penetrating oil in a boiler room. I know it would make it easier. WD is it. And the reason for that is the smell. It gives me a headache. Make sure pilot orifice is not plugged. And they usually never want to come out easy. This is going to be a 1/2 inch, but I gotta get that out. Let's see if I can just pick it out. Oh, I have a feeling it's built in. Yep. Which means I gotta loosen this. Great. I don't feel like popping this out. Now, if it is plugged, if I sprayed a little WD in there, it would clean it. And then WD would burn right off. Just want to get the excess out so it doesn't restrict. That's not going to hurt anything. Alright. These holes are not easy to line up when it's in there. Sometimes you're fighting with it, sometimes you'll want to pull a whole heavy cast iron burner out. A lot of standing pilot boilers exist. Here we spark, but alright. This came back like this. Always make sure this doesn't leak. A lot of times I find these leaking on the bottom. It's back on. Sparker. Dielectric, but needs a little something, anything in there. Shake out all the excess, but we don't need it bonding. It almost looks like somebody bent it one time. That's why I fought getting it off. Yeah, maybe it was falling off or something. Let's see. Nah. It's got a pretty good fit. I want it to come this way. Yeah, either way, it's gonna kind of be there. So this needs to go here. Now through here. So this comes here. Okay, so up. Where's gonna be the third slot? There's slots in the back of this boiler. You gotta line the burner tube up. Okay. Okay, now bring your pilot tubing. This fell off. Always do most of it by hand. My angle back there was off just a little. Now I'm just going to bend the tubing a little just to readjust the angle. I don't want to bend it where I wrenched it on. There we go. Because you will ruin the gas valve. This goes to ground. Comes back to spark. Now, as far as the burner tubes go, I'm going to show you guys. Every boiler is different. This is rather easy one. Some of them you fight with trying to get these things to line up. It can take like a half hour to get these in sometimes. Or like here, 2 minutes, not even. Crucial they face up. I have found them in one direction. So you always want to make sure the burners are up. Okay. Got busted. Now we're ready. Put it back together, except for the pressure control wire. Times have changed. I used to read a book once I got to this point if I only had one boiler. Now we got the internet on our phones. Because now sight glass is full, the protectors are in. Also check, make sure your bottom sight glass doesn't have water around it, it's not leaking. Top we won't know until we run. I don't need my flashlight on the supply line, that thing's getting really hot. Really fast. So we turn the power on. Our damper was already open. We sparked. We lit instantly. All right. Now, once we lit instantly, here's something you don't want to do. Most boilers, I learned the hard way when I first started off. This isn't the same, but there was was it a hydrotherm boiler. If you didn't have this door on, the flame would flash this way and cook all your wiring. After doing one job where I had to rewire the whole boiler, I never again started a boiler without that door on. But like I said, we live and we learn. I prefer these tight, so I'm even gonna these. I see them loose all the time. It's not going to make any difference. It's sitting there. Boiler doesn't move. Okay, back on. Spark, lit. Perfect. Got a wire nut. I don't know what that goes to. Where would a wire nut have fallen off of? Everything looks connected. Maybe it was sitting there, or maybe I scooped it out from the bottom and didn't realize it. But this is the waiting game. This is like watching the pot of water boil. This could take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and the boiler's got to cycle on pressure. So for a little while, I'm just gonna work on that boiler there, and then when this starts getting close to cycling, we'll be back. But I'm not going to keep recording for another 45 minutes to an hour while waiting for that, especially when I got work there. So this thing's been running a while. I did my maintenance on this lock-in bar. So now this thing starts off almost 2, so I'm gonna guess it's probably like 3 pounds of pressure right now. That's about 4, so that's 2 pounds actually. So it starts about 2 before any pressure is built on this glass. Let's see where we stop. Now we're like 2¼ pounds. Thing should stop, I'm guessing somewhere that would be about 3. I don't know why these pressure controls, you set it as low as you can with differential as low as possible. It always seems to go to about 3 pounds. You would think if you have your cut in at 1 and your differential at 1, you go 1½ and then you cut out, cut back in 1/2. But here we go, we're getting closer. Should be cutting out any second. Everything looks good on it. We have no leaks on our glass. Only way to test the top is when you start heating it. You'll see water coming out here. Nothing on the stems coming out. They're looking pretty good. None of the drains are leaking. Oh, I got my hose there I gotta go grab, so grab that while we're waiting for this, because the watch pot never boils. I got my hose, my drill. We're about 2½ right now. So we should cut out about now. This is where patience is a virtue. You have to have lots of patience and know you're going to be sitting there watching things for a lot of time. Can't run through anything, you just got to take your time, especially because we got to make sure that this safety here works. No lawsuits, no steam explosions, nothing like that. We want to know that this control shuts the pressure off like it did right now. Alright, not bad. So 1, 2, about almost 3. 2¾ pounds. It shut it off. We didn't go into a system test. I hate this low water cutoff for that reason. Go into a system test like every 10 minutes. It's horrible. But now we're going to drop down. When we drop down somewhere around 3, it should kick back on. So that's going to take a few minutes, but pretty much everything is wrapped up. The panel, the door panel, pop back on. So this is done. Oh wait, I don't want to disconnect my jumper because the thermostat shut off. Just make sure we cycle on. There we go. We're dropping. It takes a little bit though, because it's better than it going fast. If it drops very fast, you're in trouble. Here we go. So about 3, this thing will come back on. Oh no, there we go. We came on. The refrigerator is opening. So pressure control works, which is the most important safety on a steam boiler. Just remember that. Now that damper is opening, we're gonna turn on. We're gonna get the spark and then boom, we're on. Okay. Well, hope you enjoyed my video. Till next time.